Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Lucard, and I am an HMS administrator for Montgomery County. In today's training, we're going to be looking at the client served report. Now, the client served report is what's called a canned report. And a canned report just means that anyone who has an HMIS license can run the report. So that means if you're a data entry specialist, if you're a case manager, program manager, all the way up to agency administrator, you can run this report. So we're going to go take a look at it and see how it can help you and your programs today. Over here on the left-hand side of the bar, we have all these different little buttons, client point, resource point, shelter point, and so on. We're going to click on the reports button. Now, there are two options. We can either click on the reports button, and that will take us here to the provider reports. And then we'll click on client served report. Or if you want to click on the down arrow, you can get, this will give you a list of all the reports that you at your access level can access. So for example, I'm a system admin, so I have a lot of things that you won't have like click, but you can click on the arrow and you can do COC APR 2019 if you want to do that. But we're going to be doing the client served report. So we click on that, that will take you there. So you have two different options. Again, you can either go down arrow, click on the specific report you want, or you can just click on the reports button and it will take you to a larger screen. Both ways get you to the same destination, just depends on what you visually prefer. Service Point is really good in that regard. So let's click on the client served report. Now, what do we want to do with this report? This report allows us to check the basic demographics and the number of clients you currently have in the system. So it's going to be a little bit different depending on what type of program you have. And in order for this report to work, you really do need to have shelter stays. We have these other options here like services provided, but we shouldn't use this for that. If you want to do services, there's a service transaction report. So you never really need to use it for that. And referrals here can be kind of wonky, so I wouldn't use it for that either. The only thing we're ever going to use are shelter stays. We're going to show you how this works. So we're going to start off by picking our provider. And we're going to pick a low barrier shelter. We're going to start with low barriers first, because they will get the most use out of this report. And then we're going to show you how other programs can use this report. So we're going to choose a low barrier shelter. We're going to go American Inn for right now. And we are clicking shelter stays. Now grouping. Grouping receive services of family or clients in a household. It's okay. They're both really going to do the same thing. And because this is a single shelter, it won't matter anyway. Funding source and service code, you can leave blank. These are not things that we actually really need to use here. And so now we're going to go down to the served date range. Let's say we wanted to see everyone that's at American Inn for the month of June. We're going to type in the date, the 6/1 to 6/30, right? We're going to choose to see what happens or who is at our shelter for the month of June. We click build report. And if you have been using Shelter Point correctly, which you should be using for your low barrier shelters, everyone who has been given a shelter stay by Shelter Point in the month of June is going to show up in this report. So here we can see for American, 27 clients have been served, 15 male, 12 female, again, a total of 27. It's going to give you breakdowns of race, age, and gender here. So again, we can see 27 clients for the month of June. And if we click on these numbers, we can see it will give us the names and the HMIS IDs. So this can help us to look up a client. And again, we can see male and female, and this can help us track down some errors. Because what if this is an all male shelter? Then we know we've accidentally coded 12 people incorrectly gender-wise. And then we can also see that this is a single shelter because that we don't have anyone coming up in a family or a household, which is good. We don't want that if it's a single shelter. And we can see the age breakdown. So you can see one of the 27 is 18 to 30, 6 are 31 to 50, 5 are 51 to 62, and 15 are 62 or older. And it also gives you, again, the gender breakdown. So this is a really helpful report in terms of demographics. And we can also go down and see race and ethnicity. Again, the same breakdowns. We can see how many are Hispanic Latino, how many are not Hispanic Latino, and also a racial breakdown. So this goes and shows that you had 27 clients for the month of June. But you might be asking, hey, Alex, everyone is showing up under new. Not all of these clients were new to our shelter for the month. How do we separate out the old from the new? Because right now, everyone is just showing up as a new client. Well, that's because we only did the serve date range for the new clients. If we want to break down between old and new, that's what this serve before date range is. And if you just want to see the people that were new to your shelter for this month, we're going to fill this out. So let's say that your fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th, right? And you just want to see the clients that were new for June. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill out the old part. So if your fiscal year is July to June and you only want to see who's new for June, you want your old date to be July 1st to May 31st. It's going to, everyone who was there for the past 11 months are going to show up under old, and only the people that were there for June are going to show up under new, right? Does that make sense? So you're going to do the whole year, and you're still only looking for who was served in the month of June. But anyone who came in between July and May is going to go into the old category. And that will sift out basically which clients have been there this fiscal year and which clients are brand new with this month. So let's do build report. And here we can see 26 of the clients were served originally sometime between July and May 31st. And there's only one new client for American for the month of June. And then we also get a further breakdown in terms of male and female genders, or transgender or unknown. But it's only going to give you the old and new clients with gender. So it's not going to say the race or ethnicity or age for old versus new. But this report is really, really helpful for emergency shelters, low barrier shelters, COVID shelters, seasonal shelters, to get some quick demographics on your clients and to see how many are new. Let's do one more with the same format. We're going to do progress, please. Here we go. So let's do the same thing with one more emergency shelter. We're just going to look for the month of June. And then we're going to do the sifting out between old and new. For progress place, and see how instant it is? We can see that there are 56 people. Again, we get a gender breakdown. We can see it's an all single shelter. And we can see a racial and ethnic background if needed. And if we want to see how many of these 56 clients were new just for the month of June, we can do a sift here. And we can see that 15 of the 56 clients are brand new to Progress Place for the month of June, and 41 have been there sometime else in this year that we're looking at from July to May. And you can put in whatever parameters you want for this report if you're an emergency shelter, low barrier shelter, or COVID location. Because what we're doing here is we're getting you demographics. If you only wanted to see who was in the shelter as of today, you could do that. If you want to look for an entire year, you can do that too. You can manipulate this with the 2 serve date ranges however you want. It's extremely flexible. Right? Now we're going to clear all this out. And then we're going to show you how to do this. Or say, oh, let's do a rapid reference. Let's grab cafeteria. All right. So remember that this is based on Shelter Point. And with Shelter Point for emergency shelters, that is your list of who has been in your program. Every client receives a shelter stay at a low barrier program, at an emergency shelter. When you get into rapid rehousing, permanent supportive, and HIP programs, it becomes a little more complicated because the only people that show up on Shelter Point are clients that are moved into the program, that are leased up or stably housed within the program. You don't do a shelter point shelter stay until that happens. So you might have some clients that are not going to show up if you do this report. So one of the things that I like to do if I am a rapid rehousing or HIP program is I use this report with the same parameters, shelter stays and things like that. And this will let me know how many people here are showing up on the shelter point bed list. So we're going to do build report, and I'm going to leave this as family because this is a family program. We build report, and we can see that we have 4 adults and 8 children for a total of 12. So that means there are 12 people on the shelter point bed list for the month of June. And it also shows total household served 4, average household members served 3. And again, this is only for people that you've moved in, that you've given a housing move-in date to. And it gives you the breakdown, just like we saw before. So we know that we have 4 households and a total of 12 people here on the client served report, right? One of the things you can then do is double check this to make sure that these numbers are right. Are you missing anyone from shelter point, or do you have too many people? And a good way to do that is to cross-reference it with the APR. And then you could run the APR, right? You could pick your program. And you run the APR for the same length of time. 0601 2021, 0601 2021. But wait for the report to load. All right. And we can see then how many people are there. But of course, I chose the wrong program. So let me grab the HUD. And that can happen. Oh, I guess I did grab the right one. So again, we can go back, go to reports, we go to client served report. Grab the family, shelter stays, and we're going to be doing a comparison. That's the HUD one. Yeah. So this might be a better choice to do simply because it's bigger. So we can see that we have 12 families and a total of 42 people that were served in the month of June by Catholic Charities Rapid Rehousing Family HUD. 12 households, 42 people. We go back, we do the APR again for that same period of time. And we can see that 46 people are served and a total of 13 families. So you can cross-reference and you can see that there's at least one family that doesn't have the housing move-in date and that there's 4 people. So we can cross-reference the 2 reports and go, hey, should this one family that's missing from the client served report, but is showing up in the APR, are they housed, or are we just waiting for them to get housed and that's why they don't have a shelter stay? So you can use these 2 reports, you can cross-reference them, and that's going to help you see if you've forgotten to do a housing move-in date, or if it's just they haven't moved into the program yet. And again, this is for rapid rehousing, permanent supportive HIP programs like that. If you are an emergency shelter program, you can still do the cross-reference, but the numbers should be exact. Why? Because every client should have a shelter stay, whereas that's not going to be the case for permanent supportive, HIP, or rapid rehousing program. And if we go back, let's do one more comparison. HSP, we show 18 people served and 6 households. Remember, we had 4 and 12. So we would go, there are 2 families that don't have a shelter point shelter stay for HSP families at Catholic Charities. And so as the organization, you should then, after you've done the cross-reference, go, hey, do these 2 families need their housing move-in date, or have they just not actually moved into the program yet? And that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to use these 2 reports to cross-reference if you are a HIP program, a rapid rehousing program, or a permanent supportive program. You're going to cross-reference the client served report with the APR just to double check and make sure you have everyone that is supposed to have a shelter stay / housing move-in date for your program. And again, for low barrier shelters, as we saw with Progress Place and American, it's just a quick way to double check your stats. You can see how many people are old versus new, and you get all the demographics. That's all there is for the client served report. Again, depending on your program type, you're going to use this report differently. One last time, emergency shelters use this for demographics and to see how many clients they have. They can also do the SIFT versus old versus new. Whereas for permanent supportive, rapid rehousing, HIP programs like those, you're going to use this report to cross-reference with the APR to make sure that your shelter point is correct and that every client that's supposed to have a housing move-in date does. That's all I've got for you today. Please join me for another training. As always, I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to doing more of these with you soon. Have a great day.